Welcome into the DNVR Rockies Podcast, brought to you by Strava Craft Coffee. Remember to use promo code DNVR25. You'll get 25% off your entire purchase of that CBD-infused, deliciously rich, and potentially life-altering Strava Craft Coffee. I'm your host, Drew Creasman, the managing editor of DNVR Rockies. With me, as always, is beat writer Patrick Lyons. Joining us before too long will be Drew Goodman. Of course, you know him as the voice of the Colorado Rockies on AT&T SportsNet and the host of the Drew Goodman Podcast. We'll be breaking down some excitement and anticipation over the upcoming All-Star festivities. Patrick, we're already getting excited about that. Of course, want to catch the fever of the audience. If you're here with us on the live YouTube, make sure you're dropping those comments, letting us know what you're most excited about. And also, first and foremost, your reaction to the walk-off hit by pitch.
Could not have expected that. Did expect and did predict that the Rockies would not win a series on the road. Again, it's not don't want to brag about it, but this is the way I see things going, unfortunately. But we did say the first game they don't have to necessarily win it because of the next 2 days starters. More so about the DBacks guys that are going than the Rockies. But absolutely shocked, partially because you don't see it very often. And if you've been watching Rockies games, and in fact, if you've been watching every single Rockies game in the history of the franchise, it's never happened before. They've never had a plunk off. Only the Angels and Rays are the final two teams that have ever never had a walk-off hit by pitch. And there's only 4 teams, I think, that have never won a game like that. The Rockies, I don't think the Rockies have ever won a game on a walk-off hit by pitch either. It's, I think, them, Marlins, Seattle, Toronto, only franchises to never win a game with a walk-off hit by pitch. We've seen a walk-off walk or walk-off wild pitch. We've seen a sacrifice fly with a starting pitcher as a pinch runner on third base. We've seen a lot of different crazy ways to end a ball game, but not like that. And it shouldn't shock you too much. Again, because it wasn't at home, it was on the road, because it was Daniel Bard. Yeah, I know it was the DBacks, but it doesn't entirely, and that part shouldn't shock you. You go, kind of par for the course. Not heartbreaking. I'll say it that.
No.
A little shocking, but not heartbreaking.
If Peralta hits a home run right there, or puts one in the gap, or before that, if the first batter of the inning hits a walk-off solo home run before all the walks and hit by pitches, you go, yeah, that tracks. That's perfectly within the realm of what I would have expected for the Rockies on the road and how this season has gone in the bullpen and even Bardo and his struggles and everything. But you're like, man, they out here inventing ways to lose. And I thought about this as well. Will a walk-off balk did occur years before the walk-off hit by pitch? I was trying to find it specifically. If you can remember, I know it was a Rockies relief pitcher in 2008, and it basically mathematically eliminated them from the postseason. It was like a Ryan Spire or like one of those guys, like someone who'd been really good for the 2007 team. It's kind of a nice, fun Cinderella story. And with everything that was going wrong in 2008, it was late in the year, runner at third, tie game on the road, guy balks, in comes the run, and that was the end of the Rockies season mathematically. And it was like, so yeah, they had a balk off before they had a plunk off.
Yeah, balks happen, man. You think professionals, you should have enough wherewithal to not have something like that happen. You know, keep your composure, but you know, guys balk, right? That's just something that we know happens in a pressurized situation, and the hit by pitch thing is rough. And again, you can hit a batter and not lose a ball game. Just the bases can't be loaded. And with Daniel Bard,
the bases loaded.
Sure, exactly. With his proclivity for walking guys and just not being able to find the strike zone, it almost shouldn't be shocking in that capacity, right? He hasn't hit too many guys this year, as far as I can recall. He has walked a lot, but
he's been wild.
You know,
but
kind of a bummer in that spot. And until someone else steps up, I mean, what else for anyone pulling their hair out? what were the other options? Carlos
Yeah.
Estevez has been on deck for a little while, and right when it seemed like he was about to do it, right, a couple weeks ago at home, he was about to maybe put his name in there. He lost control of it. Did a great job in the 8th inning. Justin Lawrence got that opportunity last Tuesday night,
right,
against Pittsburgh, and you go, ooh, this is intriguing. We could have something here. He didn't have it. Now, again, doesn't mean Estevez and Lawrence won't get those opportunities again and may not, usurp Bart at some point. But at this point, what other options are there really? There aren't. And you go, and again, we've talked about it so many times, this idea that, giving a young guy a chance when they might not be ready for it it's not really a good thing. Right? If you set them up for failure, that can be a confidence crusher. And you'd almost rather say, all right, can somebody in this bullpen stand up and be an effective closer? And if no one can, then you give that duty to someone who's mentally strong enough to take it and maybe be able to pull through. And that's why Daniel Bard is still your closer, even going into tonight's game. Essentially, maybe you do say, you know what, next opportunity, I'm going to give Estevez the ball. He's been fine. Okay. I almost submit maybe even Jhoulys Chacin could be that next one.
Well,
because if you look at 1 inning outings, he's been very good. Going more than an inning, not so good. So again, if you're going to put that on someone, if you're going to make someone be the GOAT for the game and not the good kind of GOAT, but the bad kind of GOAT, then you know what, make it be a veteran, and maybe even Chacin can figure some things out with that. And then maybe he becomes your trade chip for someone else in their bullpen. And you bring back a piece for the future. Maybe.
I was just going to say, before you made that point, somebody said to me on Twitter last night, like, Drew, it's got to be Chacin. And I was just like, this is when I just want to sit the class down and go, you guys, I know that sucked. Losing ball games is always not fun. Losing them like that, extra not fun. But when you're at the point where you're saying this guy who would barely been able to find a job in baseball, who hasn't been good for 2-3 years running, who really was getting knocked the snot out of in his first month as a member of the Rockies. And as Patrick rightly points out, they were trying to make him maybe into something he can't be anymore, a multi-reliever guy. So maybe there's something there. I'm not saying there's nothing there. What I'm saying is when you're to the point where Jhoulys Chacin is the guy you're saying he's definitely got to be the closer, there ain't no closer for this team. There's no solution to the problem at that point. You're reaching, and I love it. I love that we're reaching for answers here, and we're trying to find how can they stop losing just like this, specifically like this. And I don't think that there is a way. Their bullpen's just not good. They're just not good. And hopefully they're going to get worse. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but
I like that. No, I like that. I love that.
Like, so
is there enough time? Is there enough time for them to get worse? Because they got to get better in order to get worse, right? Well, Michael Givens needs to recover, right? Chacin needs to continue doing what he's doing. Daniel Bard needs to maybe figure it out. And then people are going to come knocking on your door if they can find the Rockies' door and say, hey, you know what? We would like to acquire those guys. But until they kind of get better, they can't get worse.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent. I do think that Michael Givens just has to come back and be healthy. So I guess that is better to an extent.
He's the easiest one. Yes, he's the easiest one. Yeah.
Please, someone, before he gets more Rockies juice on him and people get upset. But Estevez, that'll be interesting as well. But yeah, I mean, you're right to an extent. Like, they have to at least show their worth. But I also think that, most of these guys are going to be counted on for totally different roles in different organizations. Whoever's acquiring Bard isn't acquiring him to be their closer. And so, and you're not getting a ton for him anyway.
You are not going to get a ton.
It would really help if they would tighten it up a bit.
and that's something to consider, is that with Estevez and Bard, they still have another year of control. Yeah. And granted, depending on how the final 3 months of the season goes, you go, well, they could be non-tender candidates, depending on how much they're going to make. And you go that now the Rockies are definitely going to get nothing for them.
Yeah.
But you could, wait around until the offseason, maybe somebody comes knocking, or you just say, well, look, again, we need bodies out there, and we'd rather have these veteran dudes going out there. They have more value to the franchise, protecting the younger relievers so that it has more
Right.
value to the franchise that way than trading them, which again is a sorry state, right? That's a failure of the front office there a little bit on things, of course. And two, that again, they have a fresh start next year, could be valuable to the Rockies in at that point. And if they figure some things out, then they have some value on the trade market, even if we're sitting here at the same time next year and you go, it's a 3-month rental. Okay, that's much better. A good player, a very good player in a bullpen for 3 months is worth a lot more than a guy you could have for a year and a half, but hasn't really shown you enough to say that they can do it consistency. Givens is the only one that will be a free agent after this year. So that's the one where, even if you do happen to take, 5 cents on the dollar, whatever it is,
right,
that's fine.
And like Will says, what are you going to do? Lose more road games? Hey, Patrick, by the way, speaking of needing bodies out there, make sure them bodies are manscaped. You need them out there. You need them looking good. You need them feeling good. You need them smelling good. Fellas, you need your summer bod on fleek. Do the kids still say that? Sorry, I reached back into a completely different era of time there for a moment. But straight up, fellas, there's no excuse anymore not to be manscaped. It's 2021. Take care of yourself. If you want anyone to take care of you, get that lawnmower 4.0. That's right, the 4.0 and the performance package. It's high technology that takes care of your family jewels, and you can get 20% off plus free shipping when you use promo code DNVR at manscaped.com. Whether you're getting, again, that lawnmower 4.0, maybe you just need an update on your spritzers, your the boxers, the deodorant. They got all kinds of fantastic stuff to make sure that you are the best man that you can be, nice and manscaped. So again, it's 20% off plus free shipping with code DNVR at manscaped.com. And of course, remember, those are just some of the many, many fantastic deals that you get for being a part of the DNVR family, always helping you out, always hooking you up with awesome deals. Make sure you subscribe at the DNVR.com today. If you get the annual, we'll send a free shirt your way. You'll get discounts constantly on hats and shirts. You'll get a bigger beer when you come down to the DNVR bar. Hang out with us in the Discord chat. All of those fun things. And of course, drinking your Breck brews and your Breck Celsius and your Strava Craft coffee, all at a discounted price, just for being a member of DNVR. It's fantastic stuff. So, Patrick, other than the walk-off hit by pitch, I actually wanted to comment on this because I thought yesterday's baseball game was objectively hilarious, because the Rockies basically played an entire baseball game in where they totally dominated the Arizona Diamondbacks. But right before that and right after that were these other things that also counted, right? Because it's like, you don't get to count an official inning pitched, or like if Jon Gray had never recorded an out and they had just kept hitting doubles, he would have had 0 innings pitched and an infinity ERA for the day, right? So the Diamondbacks put 3 runs on the board before they recorded an out. So if you go, well, the baseball game really starts at the first out, right? Because that's when you have part of an inning has now been recorded. From there on, the Rockies absolutely dominated them right up until, again, the 9th inning.
3-1 victory at that point.
It was they played
that's
a 3-1 baseball
and that's the
game
definition
for
of
9
flushing.
actual innings of baseball. They played a 3-1 game. But yeah, man, great on Jon from a mental standpoint to turn around after that. You would have thought, oh, this is going to get bad and he's going to be out of there. If he makes it through the 4th, I'll be shocked. He made it through the 6th, didn't allow another run, all the strikeouts. It looks like we may have Drew Goodman on to join us for this part of the conversation, so we can just get his take on it if we've got you, Goody. How are you?
Good. I hear you, but why can't I see you? Hang on a second. Oh, here we go. There we go.
There we go. So we're talking.
I'm a moron.
Yeah, Jon Gray, as Creasman said, that it was another gutsy performance, giving up those 4 straight doubles to open the game. First time it actually, the DBacks had done it since 2003, if you want to talk about strange stats with qualifiers. But after that, again, does the job, and then the bullpen with Chassin and Estevez is good until the 9th. So those middle portions of the game looked really good. How was Jon Gray in your estimation?
I thought he was great. I mentioned on the broadcast that, Jon is conditioned, and I heard some of you guys' conversation when I was in the green room, that, Jon's conditioned, as all those guys are who are veterans of Coors Field, that, if you give up a couple or 3, even 4 runs at Coors Field, you can still have a very good outing and give your team an excellent chance at winning. And Jon did exactly that. I mean, he was pretty much lights out after that 4th double. And I thought his stuff was sharp after that. And even for a guy that's 29, has been around, he's won 50 ball games and all the things that exist on his resume, I still think you can learn something, and that is, you got to be ready to go from the first pitch. You can't just say, hey, you know what, first pitch of the game, here's 93 down the middle, because you can get ambushed. And he did get ambushed a little bit in that first inning, but to his credit, the mental toughness that he has now and the maturity that he has now, he may not have handled that the same way a couple, 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's what really stuck out to me, and a lot was made about that, back then, and it's something I've always been interested in because, it's like it's a tough mental job. Just starting pitching anywhere is just such a mental challenge, and then obviously you throw in those Coors Field elements, and I totally agree that, and not just him. There are lots of guys in the game who would have let that day get away from them. It's easy when you show up and you've got your best stuff and you settle in right away, you punch out 3 guys in the first, and then you have a nice game. To turn a game around, because it's not like other sports where when the other team scores, you get the ball back, right? Jon's only way of getting his team up to bat is to get 3 outs or for Bud Black to come get the ball from him. And we've seen Marquez, who's an all-star, not get out of the first inning this year. And so it was not to get one more double. Buddy's got to get somebody up in the pen.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about it from that perspective. Like, at what point do you get somebody up? And the worst case scenario for any manager, you're getting somebody loose in the first inning.
Yeah.
And that person would be Jose Mujica right now. He's now the new long guy.
Right.
Fortunately, it didn't happen. And fortunately, he was great after that. And the Rockies, they're still devoid on the road and really at home, even in that St. Louis series. It's not like they had a lot of big hits with runners in scoring position. They had some big late hits by Elias Diaz, certainly and obviously, but it's not like they were banging the ball all over the park and and went 8 for 15 with runners in scoring position. They're a flawed offensive team that has some young guys that are getting better. Things look better when you have naturally when you have Tapia and Daza going up top, and they're both in naturally because they were so hot in June. They've kind of tailed off considerably right now, and then you're relying on somebody else getting the big hit, and that hasn't happened. And unfortunately, the bullpen has again been not good overall, and even Bard, I look at Bard's stuff and I'm always perplexed, guys. Yeah. He throws 97 to 100, and he's got great movement on his slider. I mean, he throws some Adam Ottavino-ish sliders, right, at times.
Yeah.
But he can't get a lefty out to save his life right now.
Right.
I mean, it's just that's a fact. He faced 4 lefties last night, and I've been talking about this quite a bit because they're facts. I'm not trying to – he has the greatest story in baseball over the last few years, what he overcame to get back. It's a marvelous story, and I'm not trying to write his obituary. I have the utmost respect for him. I don't worry about walks typically when he comes in. I know he struggled with that last night, but the fact that he struggled so much with lefties is alarming, and you have to pass on that information. And we do as broadcasters. And last night he faced 5 batters. The righty he got out, and the 4 lefties all reached. A hit, 2 walks, and a hit batter.
Yeah.
Yeah, lefties are hitting 341 against him. He has a 6.05 ERA against left-handers, whereas the right-handers 2.20 ERA, and righties are batting 186 against him. So it's really it's a night and day. And you come up to the ninth inning, and DBacks are just loaded on the left-hand side, and without a veteran left-handed reliever, you can't really mix and match, and you just got to throw your closer out there, hope he can get a 0, and you take it to extra innings.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Buddy right now, who do you truly, honestly have supreme confidence in? And there's always going to be a situation, even with a top flight bullpen, where you hope that the majority are going pretty well, but there's always a couple of guys that they're in a little bit of a slump. It's baseball. It happens offensively, and it happens to the guys on the hill. Right now, Chassin's throwing the ball pretty well. Yeah. Michael Givens, we don't know. He just came back. I thought Kinley was throwing the ball pretty well, but he's got some soreness, so he's been down for a few days. Estevez is hit and miss. There's no one you can just go, all right, man, I know we're going to get 3 outs here, and that'll get us to the next inning. Yeah. If you're Buddy, you really don't have that. Thus the line, fellas.
You can't have another
friend is the bullpen.
It's bullpen.
Good bullpen, right? Manager's best friend's a good bullpen.
Yeah. What's your thought on this idea that, and again, this is really true of any team, struggling, is that you would rather have a veteran guy out there in a big spot like that maybe doesn't have it than a young guy who might not be ready for it, right? Because the veteran's going to bounce back, whereas the rookie, man, that could totally, shatter his confidence, and it's going to take that much longer to build him back up. What's your take on something like that?
I think it's a great question, Patrick, and I have 2.5 immediate thoughts on that. 2.5. Ready? Number one, yes, from a managerial standpoint, you're still trying to win games. And are the Rockies going to the postseason? No. Are the Rockies a championship caliber team as they're currently comprised? No. We understand that. They understand that. But you still, from a Buddy Black standpoint, you're trying to win. You're also trying to develop. And so Justin Lawrence, who had an opportunity, this is kind of the second part of your question, if you will, the second answer, is that, Justin Lawrence, who's closed games in the minor leagues, has closer stuff, does not have closer command. Yeah. But, he's 100 miles an hour, and he's got a wicked slider. And so you go, all right, let's put him in some high leverage situations, because the only way you learn to do it is by doing it at the big league level. So that's the other part of it. And are you going to maybe kick some games that you could have won, and instead of winning, pick a number 76, you win 70 because, you're still not going to the postseason, right? Right. And I guess the other half of that, the reason I said my 2.5
is the half, all right.
Question or answer response is that I'm a big believer that if that affects somebody, let's say a guy, young guy gets an opportunity like Lawrence, and it doesn't happen for him. He blows the save, and he does not handle it mentally, emotionally, and it throws him in a significant tailspin. Then he may not have. I'm not saying this about Justin Lawrence. I'm saying anybody.
In theory,
he may not have the constitution to be in that situation. Anyhow, if you're going to have a meltdown the first time or two that you fail. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Temerity, right? These young guys, they don't have that temerity always. So, and Lawrence will get an opportunity because that's the guy, right? That you go, all right, he might be able to do it. Estevez could step in there, Chassin, and maybe Lawrence is the closer of the future, right? Speaking of Adam Ottavino, he's the future Ottavino, right? And we know the struggles that Otto had, in Rockies uniform before he could figure it out. But you take a break, get that confidence, get that momentum going again, and then all right, now we can go ahead and maybe give you that next shot. But it's a little too soon, right? It was only just a week ago, and he's got to have some more good outings before he can possibly go in there and step in for Barden.
Yeah, when you're talking about championship level late inning guys, one non-starter for me is you can't walk people. You cannot walk people. You can't do it. Yeah, I mean, the Rockies, one of their more successful closers, and was certainly during a time when the team was very successful, was Houston Street. And Houston Street was a 3-pitch closer. It was fastball, slider, changeup. Houston Street didn't throw very hard. But, he's like 90, 91. right? But there wasn't going to be no one was walking, and he could pin the tail on the donkey. I mean, he was going to work outside corner, take the slider a little bit off the corner, change up. He had great command. You can't walk people. Are there going to be times where you blow it because a guy hits a ball in the gap and then the guy follows up and hits another ball in the gap? Yeah. Tough to live with that, but you can.
Yeah.
What you can't live with is what happened last night.
Right. 100%. All right. We have to wrap up the video portion of this before too long. I will have a few extra thoughts for those of you listening to the podcast. But again, that's why you got to make sure you're subscribed to both of those things. But before we get out of here, Goody, we won't probably have time to talk to you as a preamble to the All-Star game. We'll do more All-Star stuff, I think, next week. But I just wanted to ask the big, broad question of right around the corner. It's coming now. It's here. What are you most excited for? Just from your perspective, what are you most looking forward to through all the All-Star festivities?
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked that because I'm going to have my two partners, Huey and Spilly, on tonight. My podcast is going to drop tomorrow, and I was taking notes earlier. I'm saying, and that's kind of what I was thinking about. What am I most looking forward to? And I have to tell you, I was driving somewhere just a few minutes ago, and I heard where, Ohtani, I was listening to another podcast earlier, whatever, it doesn't matter. And we were talking about Ohtani, they were talking about Ohtani, and, it's going to be, historic because I'm sure he's going to pitch and he's going to hit. And how cool is that? Well, what's really cool for all of us? We're actually going to be there. So we'll be able to tell the story years from now and go, yeah, I was there when Ohtani became the first guy in forever, or really ever, right?
Oh.
The way it should work is he should start the game, right?
Yeah.
And hit. This way you can take him out and you don't lose the DH. Just have him hit for himself.
It's an exhibition game, so it's like, let's forget it.
I wonder how stringent. They're not going to be super stringent with the rules. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the home run derby as we get closer, and I guess it's upon us. All of those things. It's going to be cool. It's going to be cool doing what we all do for a living, to be able to go down there and visit with some of the young stars of the game and kind of get a feel, for who they are, and have the baseball world descend on Denver, and the focus for 48 hours or so be on Denver and Coors Field and our beautiful state, to be a tiny, 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 tiny part of that and to witness it. I think all of that is going to be really neat.
It's going to be exciting. Yeah, looking forward to being in the spotlight there and having the microscope on us, because there's a lot to love about Coors Field and everything MLB and the Rockies have done to pull this All-Star game together, because they definitely should be applauded for that. It's come together better than I could have hoped for it. They've done a really great job. Yeah,
and it was neat last week, and I understand, a big part of it is how great a job the Rockies do with their fireworks display and celebration. And I've been fortunate to be see a lot of them around baseball, and the Rockies are number one. And I think it's really cool, Patrick, that there were 48,000 people in the house over the weekend, each, Friday night, Saturday night, and, even Sunday, no fireworks, but, good, healthy crowd, 33,000. And they're enjoying baseball, and the team's playing really well at home. And it felt normal again, man. It was cool.
Yeah, and it's ramped up quite perfectly, as you said, with the fireworks, because opening day 2.0 goes down on Monday against the Pirates. There's about 30,000, slowly building up. Arenado comes on Thursday night, larger crowd, fireworks, and then lo and behold, gets even bigger than that, where, again, the entire baseball world's going to be at Coors Field and around Coors Field enjoying this. There's going to be thousands more down at the convention center at Play Ball Park, getting to throw baseballs in a cage and clock them to see how fast they go, going to the batting cages, seeing artifacts from the Hall of Fame, getting to rub elbows with some great legends that are in the Hall of Fame, some great Rockies players. Roger Bailey's going to be there. I'm psyched to see Roger Bailey. I know there's a name for you to throw back. but he was a very good pitcher in the 90s for the Rockies. And there's going to be so many wonderful people there. And it's all happening right here all at once. And it's going to be such a celebration.
You want to make Rogers' day, Patrick? Go up and ask him how his golf game is. Because that's what he is. He's a professional golfer.
Really? Senior tour? I mean, are we talking?
No, I'm kidding about that. I mean, Roger
Borderline.
has a gig, but Roger is on a golf course most of the time near you. So, yeah, good player.
Very good, very good. And I'm glad to see the Rockies kind of welcoming back some of these players. Lisa Fernandez, Jenny Finch, some great softball legends are going to be there. Tomorrow I'm going to go down to the convention center. They've got like an early media tour where you can go around and see all the stuff. I mean, it's going to be like being a kid in a candy store. I
know. I got to check it out. I got to see. I haven't even seen who's in the celebrity. Are they all in like the separate celebrity softball game, that kind of thing?
Some of the people that are there signing will be doing that. For the Celebrity All-Star game, you know, they only have released like maybe about 10 names, like people that they had signed on nice and early. I think pretty much Larry Walker and Vinny Castillo were the only Colorado names. But you can't play softball with 10 people. So we've heard some rumors that Will Barton will be participating from the Nuggets. I think there'll be a lot of other, you know, familiar names in Denver sports and entertainment that are going to be there, and it'll just be nice. And if you've got tickets to that event, I mean, you're going to be there for the Futures game beforehand. Stick around for the softball Sunday. You know, you're going to keep your eye on the Rockies game as well. So, and the draft. Sunday's a big day for baseball fans in Colorado.
Yeah, the Rockies are playing the Padres. I got to sneak over, and I'm looking forward to that. Actually, here's a shameless plug: Saturday, because the new Tattered Cover is doing a lot of great things, and they have a lot of, you know, authors in, and they're doing a lot of naturally baseball activities from the literature standpoint. And I'm going to do a little thing on my book at 3:30 and sign after. So, you know, if you're in the neighborhood, come on by the Tattered Cover at McGregor Square, 3:30 Saturday afternoon, or all day, because they've got a lot of people who are going to be there.
Oh, that's fantastic. And that's at McGregor Square, right? That's the new one.
Yeah, it's a brand new one where they moved to. So, it's I haven't been in there yet. I've been by there after hours, but I'm excited. I love bookstores. So it's and Tattered Cover is it's always been one of the great independent bookstores in the country.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah. Your book's called If These Walls Could Talk: Stories from the Colorado Rockies Dugout, Locker Room, and Press Box with Benjamin Hockman. And it's fantastic. A lot of really good stories, particularly from that 2017, but even, you know, some inside stories and conversations you had with Larry Walker for anyone. We haven't talked about your book in a while. You know, you're officially an author. And so that was a fantastic read.
Yeah, I appreciate that, which means basically anybody can. I took out my crayons and, you know, carved away.
Yeah, they've got some other events going on down there as well. Some virtual events that they're doing at the Tattered Cover, which is pretty neat and is worth checking out. Also, even at McGregor Square, there's a cool event. I think it starts on Saturday. I don't know if you've caught wind of this, but at the Raleigh Hotel inside McGregor Square, there's going to be an exhibit of you know, all these amazing artifacts from Marshall Fogel, a guy from right here in Colorado that's a big-time collector. He had an exhibit over at the Colorado History Museum, and I want to say maybe 2018. And, you know, he's going to have some amazing bats. And on Saturday morning, a Brinks truck, you know, armored guards and all that, they're going to be bringing through a 1952 Mickey Mantle PSA 10 card. So it's a card that's 70 years old and looks like if you would have opened up a pack of cards today. The corners are so crisp, and that's going to be on display only for a couple days, but the entire exhibit's going to be going on, I think, all the way through the Dodgers series at the end of next week.
Yeah, no, I lent that to, you know, to the city of Denver for the festivities this week, and I thought it was the least I could do to kind of share that with other people.
I heard it was actually a Jerry Creasman card that was in your back wheel of your bicycle when you were a kid, no?
That was Gary Gentry, not Jerry Koosman. It's Gary Gentry.
There we go. One of my favorite Mets facts, because I know you were a Mets fan as a young guy growing up, is Marv Throneberry. And
Marvelous
Marv is the fact that his initials are actually Met. Marv Throneberry. I don't know if
I didn't know that.
Have you ever heard that one? Yeah, no. I don't know his middle name. I think it's Edward. When you've got useless trivia like that, you don't need to like take it to the next degree. I just know his middle name started with an E. Marvin Eugene Throneberry.
Do you know, Patrick, your wealth of interesting facts, and the 62 Mets, my favorite line that encapsulated the 62 Mets, one of the expansion Mets, managed by the great Casey Stengel, one of the great characters of the game, but they were historically one of the worst teams in the history of the sport. They went 40-120. They didn't even bother playing the other 2 games they were scheduled to play that were rained out. They're like, don't worry about it, go home, right? But at some point in time, Casey Stengel said, can't anybody here play this game? And of course, the answer, if the balloon answer, over his head would have been, no, Casey, no one can play the game that's wearing a Met uniform right now. So,
yeah, those were hard times, and there was an expansion draft the year before. So, I mean, the quality of ball players out there definitely had gotten diluted at that time, and it is what it is. It's even amazing that the Rockies were able to, after '93, become an expansion team, have so much success early on. Again, that's something that you go into in your book, If These Walls Could Talk, and you'll be around. You said Saturday, I think, right? At the Tattered Cover.
Saturday, middle of the afternoon, 3:30, over at the Tattered Cover, and we're gonna have a little discussion, and then if people want to purchase, I'll certainly stick around and sign and that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's a high school All-American game going on, I think,
yes,
on Friday, which is something I didn't know about. Just heard about that yesterday. I think they're even going to do a home run derby on Saturday before 3:30. They better get it done. I think you've worked out with the staff at Coors Field to make sure there's no carryover. So everyone that's at the derby, for the high schoolers, they can go across the street to hang out with you at 3:30.
There you go. I'm excited about the high school All-American game. A couple of Colorado kids will be involved. Pitcher from Chatfield, plays for a buddy of mine up there, Brett Pierrett, and an outfielder, center fielder who's going to Tennessee, who I saw from Grandview High School because we're in the same conference. I coach at Arapahoe, and so that'll be exciting, not only for those 2 young men, but for all those kids to come and play at Coors Field, and you'll see the the next generation, if you will, of really talented college players.
Yeah, and as you said, Reese Chapman from Grandview is committed to Tennessee. Christian Fouch committed to Arkansas. Again, I think those guys they're juniors, right? So we'll see what happens if they do possibly get drafted next year. But those are some quality players that we have right here in our state. It's got to be fantastic for them to be honored to play in that game.
Yeah, Chapman's older brother is a senior. He just graduated, and he's going on to play college baseball as well. So it's a pretty good baseball family, the Chapman family.
And then this year's actual MLB draft is going down Sunday at the Belco Theater at 5 p.m. I'm not sure if they're allowing fans into that event, at least not this year. I don't know if you've gotten any word. I think that'll be probably the hope, is that they can turn the MLB draft, especially if they continue to do it during the All-Star break, is turn it into a little bit like the NBA draft and the NFL draft. Again, I don't know that the fans will know quite as much about the players, but they can get excited and just kind of celebrate and see these players, before they start getting on those buses and riding around the country, paying their dues in the minors.
Patrick, I like what you present there, and I'm with you. And it is grown. I think the stature of the Major League Draft has grown. It's nowhere near, so obviously nowhere near NFL, and it's nowhere near, quite frankly, the NBA right now. And one of the differences is that we watch Alabama and Ohio State and Penn State and UCLA and USC and the programs that seem to crank out a lot of NFL talent. We watch them play on autumn Saturdays. In the case of college basketball, we watch Duke and Kentucky and Kansas and Gonzaga all winter long, throughout the season, and then we really focus during March Madness. And so you have a familiarity with when Patrick Lyons of Gonzaga is the 10th overall pick by the New Jersey Nets. You're like, man, I really like Patrick Lyons, good player, and you have a feel for it. I think it grows as we continue to grow college baseball and people focus, maybe a little bit more during the year when, Arkansas is playing LSU in an SEC weekend deal or a series, or, certainly when it gets to Omaha, I think more people are paying attention. The high school one's a tougher deal, but, with social media and getting out highlights of some of these kids that may go very high in the draft, I think it will help raise the stature and the interest in the major league draft. It's not. I can't imagine it ever becoming what we see in the NFL or maybe even the NBA, but it certainly can grow, and we can help educate people who are baseball fans as to who these guys are. And now they pay attention to the draft and they go, wow, the Rockies, Kumar Rocker slipped all the way to the Rockies, at the 8th pick. So that's an interesting point that you bring up.
Yeah, it's a seed I think MLB, has tried to plant, especially in this past off season with, the minor leagues shrinking a little bit, but then, keeping some independent leagues as partner leagues under that umbrella and kind of taking over the draft a little bit, working with some summer collegiate leagues, and even, instituting the MLB combine, the draft combine that they had on MLB about a week and a half or so ago. And how, again, if you can, see some of these guys throwing, a wiry 16 or 17-year-old kid, throwing in the mid to upper 90s, you're gonna take notice of that. And various All-American games and perfect game, they had one a couple years ago at Wrigley Field, and I think they play a couple times there. Zach Veen was hitting home runs out of there in batting practice, and that kind of helped put him on the map in the summer of 2019 before he was selected 9th overall by the Rockies. So slowly but surely, I think MLB is starting to invest in those lower levels. You're right; it'll never become what the NFL and NBA is, because these players are still unknowns, and it takes so long for them to get to the majors. For every Houston Street, as you said earlier, who comes up less than a year after they're drafted, you've got other guys that you feel good about. 32 years old, finally making their major league debut, feels good, but that's an awful long wait for a fan base, to invest in a guy that they had just gotten drafted. So I definitely think it's just something that's got to grow over time. And I think we're finally starting to see that process happening a little bit more.
Yeah, and the more that's out there, and the more interest there is in, and it has to start at the college level, where people go, okay, you know what, I do want to check out LSU and Arkansas Friday night, where two guys that could go high in the draft are squared up against each other, and they'll notice it's a great atmosphere. I mean, if Arkansas is going to draw 14,000 people in a stadium, that's a full house. LSU, the same thing, and it's raucous. It reminds me a little bit when I watch those elite programs that have great fan bases play. It's reminiscent a little bit of the atmosphere you see in winter ball in the Dominican. I've had the good fortune of being in Santo Domingo on a couple of different occasions and seeing winter ball games, and it's a festive atmosphere. It's and you see that Friday night and Saturday when some of these SEC programs in particular get together. It's like a mini college football event and atmosphere. And I think that would be certainly going to play well and translate on television. And then people become a little more familiar with some of the larger names out there, which ultimately could enhance draft coverage.
Yeah. And if MLB Network starts airing, more of these games, I think Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter were two guys. Again, we'll see them at the top of the draft. Hopefully maybe one of them will slip to Colorado, 8th overall. But those were almost must-see starts, because you knew they were going to go out, do some amazing things. Rocker had already thrown a no-hitter. I think struck out 19 batters against Duke in 2019 in the regional. So it's slowly becoming must-see TV as these guys get older and older, and people get familiar with their names. So, well, have you recorded your latest episode?
No, we're it's interesting when
Looking for a teaser there to see what's
yeah.
Billy
Well,
got
this
to say.
afternoon I'm gonna do my portion, if you will, the monologue, whatever the hell you want to call it, and talk naturally about. I'm gonna kind of put a period on the St. Louis series and Nolan's return, and just as you and Drew were doing, chatting about what I look forward to at the All-Star game, and next week will kind of be a postmortem on the whole All-Star experience. So those are the two main themes. And then first half Rockies. And that's, part of what I'll be discussing with Huey and Spilly as we kind of wrap up thoughts on the first half, wrap up our thoughts as we look forward to the All-Star game. And things can always get a little interesting when Ryan Spilborgh's involved in a conversation. Maybe so you'll have to listen. It'll be fun.
That is an understatement for sure. Yeah. And plenty of surprises too to go around in the first half for the Rockies. And you can get all of that on the Drew Goodman podcast. Drop in Thursday morning. Make sure you are subscribed to that. Well, Goody, thanks again for joining us, and look forward to seeing you down at the Tattered Cover on Saturday at 3:30, where you'll be signing your book, If These Walls Could Talk, all about the Colorado Rockies. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube to the DNVR station that we've got going. And follow me at Patrick D. Lyons, my partner in crime, at Drew Creasman, and this young man here at Drew Goodman 42.
Hey, real quick, as you sign off, Patrick, when are we going to see Creasman? Because you and we hang out on the field. I see you on a regular basis, and I don't know where Creasman's been.
I'm trying to get him. I'm trying to get him out.
Got to get him out of the house.
We're not allowed to bring cans of Breck Brew, but I mean, if I could rig up a little stick, I'll just carry that out right in front of him. We'll get him down to the field. You might see him for the All-Star game. We're trying to actually, full disclosure, broadcast a couple days next week in like around 7 a.m. We might be allowed to go into Coors Field and kind of do some morning shows. So we're working out the details, but he's looking forward to getting back down on the field. That's for sure.
That'd be great, man. Well, listen, thanks for everything. Have a great week, and I'll see you over the next few days. So that'll be good.
You got it. Thank you so much, Goody. And for all you out there, our faithful subscribers and listeners, we appreciate you listening along. For Patrick Lyons, Drew Creasman, and Mr. Drew Goodman, we'll see you at the ballpark.